Hi, I'm Ole. I'm on board the Waterling in Rotterdam, and this is Art Safari. In Art Safari, we cut our way through the jungle of contemporary culture, and today we're taken on that journey by Nacho Villaplana. Nacho is a Spanish artist who embarked on a world tour, but then he got stuck at his first destination, the Verbeke Foundation in Belgium, and he stayed there for many years. Now he's working for the Spanish ambassador in The Hague, but secretly he's dreaming of traveling to the Ukraine, despite the ongoing war.
The first thing that came to my mind when you were asking me about the journey is where to start, what should be the starting point of the journey for telling the story.
Yeah.
So
what is
starting point?
What was your starting point for the journey that you've been taking? Because you're in The Hague. You're working for the embassy of Spain, but you didn't start out with a political career, like a typical political career, right? You started out as an artist, or like studying art. Is that where you started at? Or how did you tell me the story, Nacho? Like when you went to the art academy, no?
Yes.
How did you end up at the art academy?
That's also a assume of many Asaros conjunctions. Yeah. Let's do like restart again.
That's fine. That's fine. No problem.
Yeah.
No. So we will start out. We do a chronological thing.
Yeah.
Right. We'll start with where you started from as a young guy, passionate for life, to the bitter old man that you are now, desperate to make a to have a second chance to start it all over again. No. That's evil. No, but let's.
No, it's just that I didn't realize that we were actually starting like.
Yeah, but this this is gone. We can also talk about your experience at Verbeke. We start with that, right?
No, but the story thing was a good starting point. It's just that I need to. I heard some reverberation from there.
It's good that you tune it up.
Yeah, it was coming.
It is recording, right?
Yeah,
it's recording.
It's recording, and I was hearing myself from the speakers of the.
Can you move the arrow all the way to the top so I can see if there's power coming to the computer? Is there power coming to the computer? Okay. Good. Yeah.
So let's start.
You want to start? Yeah. Go.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So now you're working at the embassy, but you didn't start with a political career. Or like how most people, you didn't.
No, but I don't consider that I'm doing a political career at all. I'm just at the embassy. I'm just doing an administration work.
Yeah.
Just administrative
job.
Yeah. We'll say like a feeding job, that provides me a good shelter temporarily to figure out how to continue within the cultural world or artistic. That is what actually catch my interest, or what I think is worth for live for, rather than being just public administrator working in an office from 9 to 5, doing something that you actually don't see a product or a result for the society. You are just in the middle of lots of papers and a process that are done in a way that are just adjusted to a law or to a pre-established procedure, but you cannot actually put your hands on to provide something that makes better. A real change. Yeah.
Because now you're working at the embassy of Spain in The Hague, but you started out with a more artistic incline. So you started out at the art academy.
Yeah.
Right. Seville was where you started in Spain.
In Spain.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about how you ended up in this location in Seville in Spain at the art academy? Like what
it's also
path?
The result of it's a result of many paths and coincidences and thoughts that cross you in your life. Because when you finish high school, you really don't know what you want to do. You have some passions, but you're also influenced by the way you have been raised up, the expectations that society and family, friends put on you, or But you suspect that these are expectations that they put on you. Maybe they don't have any, but as a role in the society and the young people, we somehow get affected by all these things that we see. Can be on the TV or also certain role figures. So let's go back to the point. When I finished high school, first I started at the university studying economics and administration.
So you have a bit of a background in administration in a way.
No, not at all, because I even didn't finish the first year. I realized already in high school, we can go a bit before, I was very interested in photography, graphic design, so I was involved in high school, in the high school newspaper, very handmade, very rough thing, but I was already into design and photography. I had a little digital camera, very small, almost a toy, so I was doing photography, and also the radio of the high school catch my attention, all this, I was attracted to all this kind of audiovisual stuff. But somehow I ended up studying administration and economics and a bit of law also, because it looks like a serious thing to do, or like a serious career. But I even didn't finish that first year because I thought I'm going to do a mediocre career with low grades and trying to push every day to keep continuing studying something that is not giving me any passion or any interest, really. It was interesting, but I was not into it. So I chose to go to the art academy and do instead something that I knew that I was going to enjoy doing it and get better grades and get some output from myself that was more fulfilling and more, let's say, I don't know, more rounded, more, something more.
For you, it is an important element to have your motivation come from a personal drive, like a passion or something that you feel personally connected to, more than, let's say, that there's a financial incentive to make a decision. Like, you could have become a lawyer or a doctor.
Yeah, and that gives you a profit or a stable career with certain income, no? You mean? Yeah.
And a certain societal, like a certain standard that comes with it as well, because people see the artists and they are often lower on the class ranks, let's put it like that, than the doctor or the lawyer or the So
there's certain prestige in certain professions,
but that was not something that motivated you. There was something else in there, like
certainly, yeah.
What was it that gave you that, like, the love for what made you choose the academy over class or over money?
Can be the passion for cinema, for instance. For when I was little, I've been raised up watching movies. My father had a huge collection of classic and good quality movies. So somehow I think that when you grow up in an environment, when you get access to culture, to art, to products, well, don't say products, but artworks that has a content, well, somehow it influences you or make you grow within certain values. So
that makes you less susceptible for, like, the temptation of financial achievement or societal class achievement.
Somehow, maybe. But I also think that in that sense, it is possible to, I don't know, is it possible to live with dedicating yourself to something more humanistic than something more scientific or those professions that...
I think that there's... But for someone who chooses science, like research stuff, and I think that for them there's also something that goes beyond the status or the financial gains. Maybe financial gains play a significant role to a certain extent, but you want to make a difference in a certain way, and it's maybe the same for you when it comes down to art. No, it's not just I want to be an artist because I want to be famous, like a lot of people who might be motivated by something like that.
Indeed, yeah, I get what you say. Yeah. So also in science, when you get the path of science, is because you have a passion for this research and this.
Because if you have a passion,
progress
if you have a passion for art, then it comes from something somewhere. And what you said, there's a certain upbringing from your father. Is it normal in your family to have this cultural input, to have this?
Yeah. You say my father, but also my mother. Yeah, both they dedicated their lives to the humanistic field, in history in particular. So there is also when you raise up in an environment. Yes, somehow this environment makes you focus and put your attention in trying to know why the society today is like this. You want to know about history, you want to know about the ideas that move the society, and those ideas that at the end the world we are living in now is a consequence of the history and the legacy of the previous generations. And this, of course, it orientates you. It also conditions you. Sorry.
But is it like, I try to understand the environment that you come from, because I don't know Spain that well. I've only been there once on holiday with the academy, so it was not really like getting to know Spain.
Yeah.
But what I try to figure out is like how is culture integrated in like the upbringing for most people in Spain? Is it normal what you went through, or is it exceptional what you experienced? And how did that define your choice to go to the academy? Because going to the academy, I don't know, what kind of age were you when you went to the academy? Was it
21, 22, I guess. Yeah.
It is really, it's for very many people, it's the choice to kind of give up a sort of more secure and stable income and a certain degree of status and stuff. So that is quite because you don't come from a poor family.
No.
So you have this in a way you have the opportunity, but also you have like the rebellion to go to the academy.
Yeah, let's say, yeah. So yeah, it's a complex thing, because of course you can think that you have been privileged somehow. I had the privilege of a very stable family in terms of what the idea of a classic family with conservative roots have. So the standard that in the previous generations was regarded as the normal, like father, mother, sisters, brothers, and a very defined environment. No, and it gives you economical stability. It comes also together with certain traditions, let's say religious, conservative mindset. It also comes with other certain limitations. There is a certain view of what I mentioned before, what the society expects to you, Yeah. It also comes with less versatility at the moment, maybe in my case, of having an entrepreneurial view of life. So you are raised by parents that are university teachers. They have a job that is stable and for life. You are not growing up in an environment where there is a family business going on, and therefore you have a very stable income. When you work for the government as a teacher, in this case, you have your life defined completely. So then you don't have that know-how of how to run a business. And art also, if you want to be an independent artist, you have to know also about risks, let's say business, because at the end, when you're an artist, you are your own company. yeah, so that's the pro and contra of.
So you made a conscious choice to go for the more risky side of life, the more risky future, less security and more artistic freedom, more maybe agency over your own identity, or being able to figure out what it is that you want in life.
That's something that, to be honest, it doesn't come. I'm not going to say that I'm the rebellious that jumps from the hill in a parachute. No, it's a process of transformation and questioning yourself constantly. You need to be able to see and then therefore question, but you don't question things aleatorily, randomly. You have to identify what is the problem and what is the problem in you, in your mind, in your cultural setting. It's not something that comes out in a romantic way. It's a process of. Well, there is a lot of romanticism there, maybe.
Yeah, I can
but
imagine,
also there is a rational thing that you have to work it out. It's not. Maybe for some people it is like to be rebellious and I don't know, explode like fireworks and. But in my case, it's a process of finding and deciding. And I said at a certain moment, I'm packing up and I'm leaving the comfort where I am.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
Yes, to get your backpack and say, I have a certain age. I need to be independent. I cannot live in the same family context forever. And it's curious because when you do that step, then you discover it was maybe not that difficult, or maybe that you get outcomes that you didn't expect. But you are so afraid of the unknown, especially if you have been growing up in a
stable and secure
super secured environment with an education that sometimes is a bit like telling you what is wrong and it's not wrong, and what is so you have very clear and defined moral ethic ideas. And sometimes these moral ideas, you have been growing up thinking that they are the right ones, and they are not. Finding out that was what I was telling you before, it's not like an act of romantic rebellion. No, you have to be able to question yourself. And to put all those things upside down and break the norms that you thought that they were there for being forever. And going back to the privilege, yes, I had the privilege of having a very, at the same time, conservative but also open-minded education that was telling me to dare to see the difference and to question, and not being part of the grey mass, like always trying to be independent, or let's say the personal freedom. So paradoxically, this rising that I had is also what also provided me the tools to question that. So I think I'm very lucky that my parents, even if it was sometimes against their own beliefs, they let you catch an education where you question everything. For instance, the choice of sending me to a public school and not a private. Well, my family could have perfectly afforded a private school, more elitist. My parents believe 100% in the public service and the role of the public education, public health system. My high school was a very heterogeneous environment.
Very diverse, you mean?
Diverse, that's it. Actually, I was maybe the one that was the most out of the context there. That also made me struggle a bit getting to socialize with the other colleagues, maybe because I was holding on to the conservative ideas and the environment was very eclectic, let's say, so sometimes it also confronts you, no? And sometimes when you are young you are very stuck in your ideas, and you strongly believe in the values that they have given to you, and it also makes us blind to see the diversity and accept it. For me, I recognize that it was difficult to, at the beginning, to accept other ideas or more progressive, left-minded ideas. Now I'm completely the opposite. Now I'm more far away from the right-wing conservative ideas, and I'm completely on the other side.
Because you're
fortunately,
yeah, but you're before, because I really want to know what kind of impact the Art Academy had on that process. Because this sounds like a pre-Art Academy process that you already went through that made you able to make that very specific choice on what the Art Academy can help you to achieve with that basis of, the searching artist or the searching human. It's more precise, I think. But before that, because you say this right-wing conservative environment, you find it more difficult to accept the left-wing. But till what time? Because I'm not entirely sure, right? What time was Franco significant in Spain? Because I know that that was a very strict right-wing environment, or was it?
Rather than right-wing, it was more a Catholic, national Catholic environment. So the role of the Catholic culture, the religion, the church, was very strong. And this, of course, leaves a mark on the society that after his death in 1975 still comes, and even today it has the echoes of that times are very present. Now we're having a rising of the right wing, the most radical, almost fascist mindset on certain political groups that are gaining presence in the parliament and is growing up. It goes together with the sign of the times of our contemporary right now in the rest of Europe. But in Spain, the right wing is more is not like here in the Netherlands that the right wing is more like a liberal, economical focus. It's more into tradition and the identity of Spain and the word Spain and the flag and the colors of the nation in the right wing and the monarchy are very present in the right side and social and cultural conservatism, whereas the left oriented, let's say, society is more into a republic and policies in the government and the society that are more focused into society and those ideas that are maybe that we lost in the Second Republic before the Civil War, before Franco arrived. So it also has to do with the story, the memory, the history that was partially erased during Franco's time, and with the transition to democracy, there was a pact of silence of, let's say, we are going to try to hide the wounds of the past of the Civil War and build a new society that looks forward for democracy. But for the right side, for the left side of the society, there are many wounds that have not been. Justice is not being done.
Yeah. So, there is this let's say that the identity of Spain in Franco's time up to 1975 was quite more nationalist oriented and more conservative.
Catholic,
yeah. But then you come into so what you say is you come from a quite conservative and background, but you found a search, or you were searching for something specific or a certain development of the self. And from that on, you find yourself at the Art Academy.
Yes.
In a country that still has this background.
Yeah.
So what is the Art Academy like in Spain? I can imagine that most art academies in Spain are different from one another.
Very different, actually.
But is there like a universal element that is it more traditional?
No, couldn't say that there is a universal, not in the art academies. In the art and cultural sector, the main sign is more like a progressive views are more present in these sectors. So the art sector is normally linked to left-wing ideas. In my case, in Sevilla, there is Seville is also a very eclectic city where you can find a very avant-garde nucleus of art doing different things, but also the tradition is very present. It's a very traditional city where where religious traditions plays a very strong role in culture and the identity of the city. At the same time, these religious traditions, like let's say the Easter celebrations, there is a certain iconoclastic component and certain, would say even paganism, because there is a big devotion for the processions that goes in the street, the celebration, the aesthetics, the Baroque aesthetics. In terms of art, it's a very traditional sculpture, so that's present on the Art Academy. It's all together.
Really?
Yeah. At the same time, the people that participate on that, many of them, I wouldn't say a big majority, but a huge part of it are agnostic or atheistic. But the link between religion, culture, aesthetics, cultural identity that is present in music, in the art, in the sculptures, it's a very particular mix where tradition and progressive mindset goes hand by hand. In the Art Academy, it means that you have still today the traditional academy fields of drawing, painting, graphic arts, and sculpture. And the methods, and some teachers are very proud of it, are the classic academicistic methods. So let's say in drawing, you are the 3 first years you are drawing from natural, the human body, and learning to paint and to draw perfect human body, and the technique is very important. In paint, you learn how to use the pigments, the mixing elements, and make traditional oleum or all the techniques. I don't remember now the names, but so it's a very classic artistic environment and teaching.
Yeah. It's basically what most people, when they think about the art academy, if they never been to an art academy, would imagine an art academy to be. It's people sitting around with a bunch of clay and modeling exactly the same thing all together.
Yeah.
What you would find if you go to Italy, to the academy as well.
Probably, yeah.
A very traditional sense where you really go into technique.
With a lack of creativity, maybe.
Mm.
I'm sure it's changing now. The new generations that are going into the academy, well, the academy has changed a lot. The Faculty of Fine Arts is been changing. But I'm sure that it's 50-50 of that. So on that environment, I curiously with the teachers that I went along were the most progressive ones. I had a drawing teacher that was called Manuel Álvarez Fijo. He is one of the old ones. He retired the year that I was in the academy. But he was one of the historical figures of the faculty that was more rebellious when he was young, and he was against Franco and all of that. And with those kind of teachers that were out of the pot is where I learned more, and there was an initial exchange of ideas, and finding out that the people that had the most opposite ideas to what I was raised up and grown up were the most enriching, and the ones that somehow challenged me in a very nice way. And it's been all along my career. It's always been with the teachers this kind of relation. Those that were most out of the box, or that were more challenging were the ones that actually you remember when you leave the academy, not the other ones.
No, the ones that
yeah.
are that really just tell you, oh, you do whatever and follow the rules, then you follow the rules and that's it. But the ones that really contribute to your personal development are the ones that well, stick around with you the longest, because they become a part of who you are, their ideas and their way of how they work or how they see the art sector itself. So you go to the art academy in Seville, you meet very fresh ideas, people who can help you guide the way through, well, the development that you're going through. What department did you go to when you were studying at the art academy?
I ended up in the painting department.
Okay.
Which is maybe the discipline I have done the least, and at the end I'm less interested. I don't know why did I made this choice. I have no idea. I forgot. But what I did was maybe I don't know, but because in the 4th and 5th year I went out of Sevilla trying to see something different. I remember I thought I'm not going to be during 5 years going in and out through the same door, seeing the same people. So I went to Italy, to Milan in the 4th year. And in the 5th year I went to another academy in Spain that is in Cuenca, in the deep Spain, less populated, let's see, dry center of the peninsula. So, and that was an academy with a very interesting history. It was relatively young academy. The city during the years of the transition, like the last years of Franco and the first years of democracy, well, the city is a small town. It's a very nice town. It's a very nice city. But there was a place where many independent artists and free thinkers went there. Also, foreign artists somehow landed up there, and there was a very rich art collective or group was growing up there. So in this context, they made this academy, this faculty, because in Spain there are faculties inside the university, with a different configuration compared with the other academies. It was more focused. Kind of the teachers were artists with their active career.
Okay.
They were not like those teachers that they get the position forever, and then in most of the cases, many of them, at least it's what I had in the other academies where I've been, they had their position and they did just their job of teaching, but you could not feel that they were active doing exhibitions in galleries, or at least I didn't saw it. Maybe they did, but maybe what they did was not of my interest. But in that academy, you had this different kind of way of organizing the art structure there. It was also smaller than other academies, so the contact with the teacher was closer. The contact with the students, since it was a smaller community, there was maybe more closer contact between people, and also in the city you could interact with the locals and do things. We did like small performances and poetry nights in a small bar in the city, things that we were not doing that much in Sevilla maybe, although there were these kind of events. But
yeah, but it sounds like the place in Sevilla was much more technique and traditional art technique oriented, rather than to become part of an active cultural field.
I ended up in this behavior of I'm going from 9 to 3 to the academy, and after that I'm going home. Like, you go to a high school and you do the subjects that you are ordered to do. Yeah. You do your tasks, you do your homework, and that's it. It became a sort of a routine that, for some reason, I was blind doing that.
Yeah, but maybe you didn't know anything but
that. Yeah,
like you know, going to school.
So the good
9
thing
to
of
3, that's the way life's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But then when you get into contact with something that really invigorates and takes over your entire day, all of a sudden it's no longer work. It's a lifestyle. You know, you go from classes into poetry nights and not seeing the difference between those two. They're the same, but they take place in a different location maybe. But it's not It's not that there's that the class is school and the poetry night is free evening, doing whatever you fancy.
Yeah, indeed. That's the thing I discovered in that last year of the academy.
Yeah.
And I was almost not doing painting. I was more involved into the radio of the doing art sound, performance, poetry, and especially in particular, I'm so happy I did. I have two subjects that were script writing and post-production in filmmaking.
Okay, yeah.
And there I had two teachers that were very interesting. Also the teacher of art and literature, philosophy, because curiously in the Art Academy in Seville there is no subject related to philosophy, not in the plan I studied. And there I discovered how important, and that was a big step, because how essential is to connect philosophy and the historical context and the philosophical context of every time in art put together with the artistic practice, in particular in the contemporary art.
So how important is it? Because can you give an example of how it changed the way how you look at art or culture in general?
One teacher told me that if you try to create art exclusively within the art, it's like you are boiling a pot all the time together, boiling itself with the same juices. You need to do art from outside the art. You need to do art from, you can choose whatever. You can study economy and apply what's going on in economy with an art practice that it tries to explain the consequences in our present days. You can do from politics, you can study through art the consequences in the culture, in the urban design, in the social structures. You can create art from that, and this is an alive art that is talking to the issues of the everyday life, to the issues of the people, to the policies that are being put in practice, and how does it affect us visually, aesthetically, emotionally.
No. So then you graduated from the last year in Cuenca, and now you've gone through a transformation of someone who gets into contact with different political and cultural ideas, and you really learn to see art from a different perspective than the traditional senses that people go through when they go to the art academy, the crafts of it. How did you proceed after graduation? Because now you have these new ideas, but it's quite late in your artistic development that you get this feeling for life and art mixed into one. So what happened to you afterwards? Like what did you do to?
If I talk from a more visual my personal story, or personal drama, is that again the role of the expectations of what's you think that is awaited from you, and the advice that you get is to secure your life and get a job, a stable job, and after that you can invest some time into do some creative stuff. So I did something that these are my contradictions, my personal contradictions. When I was at the Art Academy, I was thinking, I don't want to become the regular public worker, in this case, like a teacher in a high school teaching art. This one of the things that most of the graduates try to do. They prepare the examination to do the national exam to become a teacher. But at the end, somehow I end up doing that. So I did the master studies for secondary education, that is mandatory previous to do the examination that you have to do to get to become a teacher. So I start this masters persuaded by, let's say, family advices, what people do, So I end up doing that, but at the same time, like I did with my studies in economy and business administration, I drop off because I had the opportunity of going to Berlin to do a stage in a graphic design company in Berlin. I got a scholarship from the European Union. I got that chance and I ran away immediately, the same I did when at the third year of academy. And this time in Berlin was probably also like together with the Cuenca time, also because some friends from Cuenca were also there. So it created again a very personal, enriching and period where I wrote things. I was feeling very creative. I did a bit of experiment with music, with synthesizers, briefly, but I mean, there are things that somehow arrive to your hands and then you experiment, but never taking it too seriously. Like I was in a very creative moment. I was feeling good about it. But the step of jumping from the plane and really dive into the abyss, I think it's hard to decide. So
you mean that to really go for 100% for becoming the artist?
Yes.
And because now what you mean is that you were always kind of taking it very lightly. You don't give everything up to become or really work your ass off to become the artist. You become, you're part of like more of a collective or of a scene. Is that what you mean? Like, I try to get a clear picture of what it looks like, what you're trying to explain. So you say that because when you say dive in the abyss, it sounds very bleak. Where it sounds like if you really want to go, it doesn't mean that you really want to go for arts as a career. Yeah, because up to now, what you explain is that it doesn't sound like you're afraid. Like when you say that you go to do the secondary academy preparation, or to secondary school preparations for taking the exams, most people would take that security because they're concerned or maybe afraid that they
that's a certain
won't
path.
be able. Yeah, but
Path,
it didn't seem like you made that choice because there was a certain fear. It's more like you didn't know really what the next step would be, or was it out of like fear of instability? Because knowing you, there's never really been a fear of instability from what I.
The truth is that there is this fear, because there is because if you are raised in an environment where everything is stable, you don't know how to deal with that fear, the fear that is implied into being an entrepreneur, the uncertainty of having a fixed salary, let's say, for instance. That's oil and water in a style of life, no? If you are working for the government or a company that is, and you have a very stable job, the company is paying you the monthly salary, no? Or the government. If you are not grown up in a family that is running its own business, you don't know much about that.
So it's more like So it's more like a force of habit or a cultural choice at that time.
Yeah,
but you're trying to still, because you say I run away from this position of secondary school preparation.
Yeah, because in your subconscious there's some kind of guilt because you are. What's the word? You are treason yourself.
So there's you have a loyalty somewhere else.
A loyalty.
Yeah. Like if you say treason's very
to yourself, to the ideal of what deep inside you maybe you like to become, but you don't know how or what's the right and the correct path to achieve that.
So
maybe it's a bit of cowardice.
Cowardice?
Yeah,
doesn't seem like. When we met,
when we met
for the first time, we met at the Verbeke Foundation, It's the middle of nowhere in Belgium, and I mean, going to a place like that and staying there for a couple of years and really diving deep into the structure of a place like that doesn't sound cowardice to me at all.
No, that's the moment at the beginning of the conversation when we're talking about making your backpack and go away and do the step of deciding to leave the context, the traditional context where you have been.
It sounds far more like an abyss to me than
yes,
making the choice.
But that's a step way later. The story, like we are talking
of course,
few years.
Yeah, really. So it took you quite a few years to make that jump into going to a place.
Yeah, because I went to Berlin, then went back to Spain, finished that master's.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So you did go back.
Yeah. After when I finished that period in Berlin, I went back to say, okay, at least then I have the security that I have the title. Okay, I just do the paperwork. I'll finish the master's, however it takes, just to get the diploma. Then I went to the USA. I also got a lectorate in the Hague University for teaching Spanish. Maybe that master's that allows you to teach was influencing that decision, no? But I applied for that, and surprisingly I got it, even if I was not a linguistic. I was an art student, but I got there. Stayed one semester. After that semester, I also arrived to the conclusion that first, I feel very European. I like the European society. I like the European idea. So I didn't like the model of society that I was living in the USA. I didn't like the educational, how the university was set up. There were many good things, but also I didn't like the lack of social support structure, for instance, or the methods. For me, university must be a very free, open place where the teachers should be able to conduct their lessons how they think and make the student think and confront ideas. And that's the opposite there. You have to follow the program strictly. You have to teach the page that is expected to be taught that day of the book. And you should not confront into political discussions or social or ideas with students because you may hurt their ideas, and it's not your role, and you have to. It seems also like a lack of respect to the student to question their beliefs.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the opposite of what university should be.
What university were you at?
It was a public university, the Ohio University. The campus is in Athens, Ohio.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. But then, eventually, you end up in Belgium. You made this, like you have all these degrees.
I returned. What I got from that period in the USA was very good literature teachers, because I was also following seminars apart from being a teacher.
Yeah.
There I got something quite positive that is also mainly to get to know the literature that was made in Latin America that in Spain we almost don't know. Like, we go through an educational system that doesn't show us the diversity and the richness of the literature that is being made in Latin America. They speak our same language. We have influenced their culture a lot in many terms. That really sparked me again the belief on how important is culture and art somehow, because at the end it's all connected to art, the art practice, the writing as an art practice.
It's all about communication in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I came back, I came back. One side I was saying that I felt very European, but also I knew that for me the focus myself into culture and art was essential. It's what I wanted to do. So that I learned from that. So at the end, everything gives you something positive in life, every experience, everything. And if your mindset is always somehow making you focus on how relevant is the culture, in your life and in the society, well,
you automatically end
that's
up
the sign. That's the sign.
Yeah.
That's the star to follow.
Okay, so you have this cultural star to follow.
Yes.
Tell me about following the star.
Returned to Sevilla because it's the place I was able to go. I mean, I have no job at that moment, so you go back to your family that supports you at the same time, conditions but supports you.
Yeah.
So it's a paradox. Did another master in order to because I was interested in the artistic research. So I did a master on in Sevilla. That was set up by the faculty with a very trying to open the academy to new art practices. So that master's, when I did it, that was almost starting. It was something different of what was done before in the academy. The teachers involved on that, and the dean of the faculty was very committed to bring some fresh air to the academy, to the faculty. Let's say there are many things to tell about that. Where should we?
Well, I mean, I'm curious to see
focus?
how it developed you as a person, because we've been talking a lot about this development into from a conservative background, of someone who has been conditioned to think in certain ways. You said that you were cowardice at times, that you were afraid about, the lack of stability, and at the same time you keep choosing to go down the road that's not secure, that's not stable, that has a lot of open endings at the end. You say you have this star of culture to follow. You start artistic research as a master's afterwards, which means that you have a certain there is a certain academicness, but at the same time there is a need for exploration to go beyond what is already known to you. And I'm curious to see how that really shaped you to the person that you are right now. So how does this develop? What kind of elements does it add to you? Like when we met in Verbeke in Belgium, you were still quite searching, and when we were talking today, you were still searching. So I don't think that there is not a real goal to achieve. Maybe the searching is the thing that you like a lot, and that's what really keeps you going. Because if you would settle down for the job that you have right now, you would have a good life. But at the same time, it would be boring, And yeah,
that's very interesting observation. Maybe the work itself is to trying to get to know yourself. It's a search of this parallel. It goes along with something that worries me somehow, or that I find relevant, that is that I believe in, that is necessary to contribute and to build a society that is able to question and research itself. Without that, we don't really are able to build a democracy as how we believe in. I also, something I learned in this master research is that how essential is to, in the educational process, in the public education system, is essential to educate people into visual education and aesthetics education, artistic education, because it's a powerful tool to question what you see, what you hear, what you read. And it affects me inside directly, in a way that I'm also reevaluating constantly myself. It's something I need to do, to reevaluate my values, to discover and find out what are my prejudices on what I see, around me.
But it doesn't
And
sound. It doesn't sound like that's something you need to do because someone else decides for you that you need to do it. There's something driving you to make those.
It's an internal fear, because we all have our dark corners, and when you look around from a rational perspective, you are able to arrive to conclusions that tells you what is wrong or what is not wrong.
Does it mean that you are aware of that the things?
It doesn't mean that you are. Yeah, you can rationally arrive to a conclusion, but then you are not aware of what drives you. Like, it doesn't mean that you don't have certain fears that contradict that reasons that you make.
Yeah. But at the same time, but when you say that there's a certain darkness to it, does it also mean that you become aware that the things that have been, let's look at the identity of Europe, the things that have been going on in Europe in the past century, that that you can reasonably achieve those same conclusions if you don't look at yourself as a fellow human being to everyone around you. That there is a certain that you can imagine those paths of thought.
Even when you make decisions that goes against yourself.
Yeah.
It's parallel. Like, Europe has self-destroyed herself many times amid the era of rationality and illustration and all those elevated ideas. And at the same time, Europe has been a monster that has devoured other cultures and enslaved and do horrible things. You are to yourself the same thing. You can be to yourself the same monster that contradicts yourself or that renegates of yourself many times, and you end up driven by fear or hate. Sometimes you hate yourself.
Yeah.
And the path is to find out how to reconcile, how to go back to yourself and demolish those walls that you put to yourself, to your horizons, to your views, or heal the ones that you have been dealing with in your soul. So,
and in a way, for you, that has always been possible. You managed to achieve that through the artistic research, the artistic search, the getting yourself involved into culture, in a way.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, what was for you the reason to take the trip eventually? Because you were going on a journey. I don't know if you had a specific goal that you were going on, but eventually, we met each other in Belgium. So you ended up in Belgium one way or another. What was that basis from taking that journey? Because that was not a journey as a holiday. That was really, again, like a going away. And
the initial idea was really I was being consequent with things that I had written, some sort of poems, but the idea of the journey was an important part of what I have been done in a small artistic practice that has always been quite somehow intimated. I've never dared to project it too much out. I've only done it a few times, and the few times I did, I was very satisfied about that. So somehow the initial idea was to make my journey the artistic practice. All together, that with the fact that I was stuck in my home city in Sevilla, with absolutely no horizon. So it was a move of a bit of desperation, and that I needed to find a free space, completely blank, where I could dare to be myself and be brave and be myself, being consequent with my identity that it's been repressed systematically, unconsciously also, for more than 25 years. So it was like a dead end, completely a dead end that I needed to, it was a dynamic that I needed to break up. So the thing was just search where I could go. I found a place that was related to art. They were looking for volunteers, and I got a plane ticket. I bought it, and in a margin of 2 weeks, I decided to go, and then I tell my people I'm leaving in 2 weeks. It's those bright moments where I dare to do this kind of movements that end up always into the most fructiferous, and that brings you some result to your life and some consequences. And when I did that, then immediately it was a turning point in my life where everything changed suddenly. I suddenly was able to build my own path, and being independent.
Can you tell me a bit about the place that you ended up at? What kind of place was it?
The Verbeke Foundation.
Yes, please tell me all about it. For the people who don't know.
Yeah, sure. It's 10 hectares terrain where it's not easy to explain, but it's a space for autonomy. It's a place where you are free and at the same time you are within certain rules, but mainly if you go with the right mindset, and I think I was, because it's what I was looking for. It's a place where you are responsible of your own initiative, and you can contribute to whatever you want with your skills and the skills that you want to put on service there. And it's a good place to learn to... Yes, it's a good place to learn to say what you want, because sometimes in life we don't know how to say what we want, and there especially to want what you want, but not only what you want, but what you want to be. And that place shows me that if you dare to say what you want to be and you commit to yourself, you can do it.
So you ended up working there for quite a long time, actually.
Yeah, I was going for a month and stayed 2 years.
Well, that sounds almost like Hotel California.
Yes.
You can enter anytime you want, check in anytime you want.
It's again another contradiction. I mean, I'm full of contradictions, as you can imagine, like everybody. But my idea was to start a trip where I will be going from one place to another. And I stayed up there rooting, because at the end, it always came back this idea of security.
Yeah.
So
but the security is not the main thing that you will find in Verbeke per se.
But for me, I find it.
Really?
Because I stayed for 2 years.
Yeah, okay.
And
so you made your own security.
I made my own security.
Sounds very much like entrepreneurship to me.
It is, but I lose the adventureship that I was initially made me leave Sevilla.
Yeah.
So,
but maybe it wasn't. I mean, knowing the place, because you have to explain a bit more about the nature of the location, maybe. But knowing the place, it's quite adventurous to stay there for 2 years anyway. Because I think it will be.
Yes.
You will have had equally as many, if not less, adventures if you would have continued just traveling through capitals or stuff like that.
Yeah, it's also a good thing to focus on doing something and trying to achieve something instead of doing this and that without achieving anything.
Yeah,
and I'm happily tried myself there on that field, and it was beautiful to be able to do some artistic research. And also, so essential for me was also just to work, because you do there a lot of all kind of works, and I was also working at the bar, working at doing this kind of works that, in a person with a background like that sounds very silly, but it's not a kind of works that I had to do when I was a student. Many people do their studies working at the same time in a bar, no? I had a family context that where I grew up that
didn't require you to do
didn't require and didn't want me to do it, because for certain families the thing is, do your studies, prepare yourself, get culture, get knowledge, focus on that, and then you do the next step. And I think that that's a very toxic thing to do to a kid. I mean, in the real world, we have to learn everything, and we have to know a bit about everything.
Including working at the bar.
Including working at whatever job you need to do.
Yeah. But then, just to be sure, to make it clear, what we're talking about is a place that it's in Belgium, and it's like a museum. It's a very strange museum. And when you were working there, you were during those 2 years, you were at some point, or I think the time that you were there, mostly focused on, working with the interns or the volunteers is the right word. That must have developed you in a specific way as well, because you. It sounds like a very, very. It can be quite taxing job. To work with people who come from all around the world, to stay at this place, which is a really strange environment. It's a strange museum to work at, with some very specific characters of people that they have to deal with. And then there is this specific goal that they have to, as a museum, you want to achieve something with those people who come there to work for free. But at the same time, the people who come there to work for free want to have an interesting and positive experience, which doesn't always marry well, I can imagine. So what was it like for you to get into that? Because maybe your secondary teaching degree, master degree, helped you along with that, maybe? The social interaction with the workaway people, the woofers.
To be honest, I don't know if this master helped me.
At all?
No. Maybe the experience in Ohio helped me more, because it was more hands-on. The masters showed me other things maybe, but not being a team leader. That's for
but you had to become a leader in a certain sense to guide people through quite a chaotic environment.
I have to learn in a hurry, and I don't know if I succeed, but it really teaches you a lot on how to deal with people. I learned many things there, and still see that it's not an easy thing, and you have to learn a lot to everywhere in an office or whatever, dealing with people.
But you had to make a certain development when you were there, not only because I know that you were working on some artistic stuff at times, trying to figure out, how to work with, to make your own projects at the same time while working at the museum. But also you had to really deal with the social aspects of working with the volunteers. And I can imagine that is something that you're not used to before you arrived there, because you're really on your own journey. And now all of a sudden you're dealing with people who are also, looking for adventure and personal development.
Yeah, and people that is coming and living in 3 weeks, 1 month, with a constant change. It really shows you how differently the dynamics of a place become with a different group of people. You have groups of people that go completely independently, and they don't care about making a community and working together, but they are just going into their own interests. And sometimes there is a spark that puts a team all together and creates a dynamic of collective work, collective enthusiasm to do whatever the task is, regardless the effort, the hot, the cold, the hours working. So yeah, it challenged you to learn to put yourself. I think it's essential to learn to be empathic. Something I was not that aware before living there, and when I was living there, because I was living on site, I was living at the museum itself, 24 hours
container,
in a container,
in a shipping container.
Yeah. It's probably a great experience, one of the brightest moments of my life, probably. But you challenge yourself, and then you learn to be empathic, and you see how everything affects you so much emotionally, because you put hours of work and energy to convince people to do what it needs to be done, and then you are constantly reinventing yourself to trying to explain yourself, and then you fail, and that when you fail, it's for me it was super sad, you know, if you have an argument because you are living constantly there, you can't be all the time in a wonder world. I mean,
no.
You
really get confronted with yourself at times through the people that are.
Yes, you get confronted to yourself to correct yourself. I mean, in a sense of you notice that maybe you do things in a way, or explain things in a way, or behave in a way that needs to change, and then again you unveil aspects of yourself, of your interior, of your culture, acquired culture and social culture that you have inherited, that needs to change. Mm-hmm. Especially if you have a concept of authority, because it's what you have been told and seen as a model as a little kid. In the real world, in a world where we want to evolve into a more open society, collective society, well, you have to change that dynamics. Authority is not a power that reaches to you because you have a position, because you are the volunteers leader, or you are a politician, or you are whatever, a policeman. Authority is something very, very, very different, and in this kind of places where there are no rules, the rules are made collectively. This puts upside down all the concept that you have, especially if you come from a society that has had a mindset for a Catholic, national and authoritarian model, that still is changing and needs to change and needs to erase this past. That's projected somehow. But in the present, in your practice,
you work in a very hierarchical. Now you work at an embassy, the embassy of Spain in The Hague. It's quite a hierarchy space, you know, where authority is very clear. It's very clear who's the leader of the bunch and who decides what happens and what should take place. So how does that translate? Because you go from almost like an anarchist's environment where, you know, there's constant tug of war and struggle and battle between people. In a way, it can be positive, but not always. And now all of a sudden you're in a very administrative position at the Embassy of Spain in The Hague, where there's an ambassador, and she says what should happen, and it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that translate for you?
It seems that my life is a sort of pendulum where you go to one side to another, and now I'm in a period of being in an environment with this kind of established hierarchy. How it does translate.
Well, I mean, I can imagine that you tasted the rejection of traditional authority.
Completely, yeah.
And now you go back to almost the extreme. How does that? How do you deal with that shift? That sudden going from one to the other. It's must be. Is it difficult for you to now accept this authority as a reasonable one? Because I can imagine that now
it's very difficult.
Really.
There have been moments of difficulty. On the other hand, I gain on stability. It's hard to figure out how I ended up there.
Yeah. No, but in a way, I can imagine what you say. It's a pendulum effect.
Mm-hmm.
I go from the extreme to the extreme, but it in a way, for me, if I look at my perspective of authority, the moment that I lost the concept of authority as a given, I've never been able to go back to accepting that authority is just the way it is, and then to go to a position where there is absolute authority and you have to accept it or else you can't do your job. It would be extremely difficult for me to deal with that. So I find it very, very powerful of you to be able to make that pendulum swing in that sense. No.
Well, now that you say that, it's maybe because I know what is like there, so it's not surprising me.
No.
Also, it's maybe necessary to explain that I end up there having certain position as it's called auxiliary, and once I'm there, I go into another position that is a bit higher, that is more in contact directly with the authority figure of the head of the embassy. But initially, I ended up there in a job that was more related with technique, IT support, and the social networks. And but once I'm there is another position free, and I got tempted to go there and have a position in the secretariat of that diplomatic mission. So.
So you grew.
I have put myself into the trap because the initial position was more free. I was more autonomous, but then we humans get tempted somehow sometimes to grow up wherever we are, and now I'm in a position that is a bit higher, so it's also better conditions for the contract, but also more limited in what I'm able to do. And even there, you find the small spaces where you can try to change things and do something different that is not expected from you to do. And if you have the right boss, they allow you to experiment a bit, and if the boss thinks the opposite, then you find yourself limited. So I've been, even on that environment, you end up being able to do some creative things and give and put your skills on service for that.
Because how has your artistic background contributed to the position that you're filling right now? How has it enriched your contribution to the embassy?
For instance, during the pandemic, the way of communicating is not sometimes the strongest point of an administration. The way of informing and using the social networks depends on the country, of course, but for Spain, I think that the structure of the administration is not sometimes the most intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so from my side, if I was able to produce some infographics for Twitter to explain in a more clear way the restrictions in Spain for people traveling to Spain, or for the Spaniards that are in the Netherlands, I was using my own tools, like my own computer, because on the office we don't have graphic design software. So I was putting this knowledge that I know into the social networks, for instance.
Yeah.
Or being able to produce cultural activities that were not going to happen because of the social restrictions. They could not be done. It was amazing to convince the cultural attaché, that was always the culture area is the most open-minded and more flexible, to get the support from that department to instead, recording or live streaming those events.
Yeah.
And it feels nice to be able to do with your own resources, or trying to limit the economic impact that would mean, for instance, to rent a company to production, but doing it with your own people, and collaborating with others. It's nice to be able to do a nice artistic product, to being able to put worldwide available to the public and see those cultural activities played in an open space instead of a theater that will reach an audience of maximum 500 people, normally the people that are around the embassy, and instead of doing something that is available online to everybody who wants to reach it. So that's already a contribution to try to change the perspective within a structure that is very reluctant to innovation.
Yeah, because
the administration,
the
public administration.
So we were talking about it earlier, is about how if you're you graduate from the art academy, most people consider it that you haven't succeeded as an artist when you don't work as a traditional artist, within traditional disciplines. Whereas at the same time, I believe that when you are able to take the development, what we've been talking about up to now, the personal development, the search of how to figure out for yourself what are the elements of life and society that I find valuable and important, and how can I contribute to those. If you can take those developments and ideas with you and implement them into the practical real world, they are equally as powerful, if not more powerful, than the impact an artwork can have on your surroundings. And I think in a way, if you have, when you talk about this way of communication, the way how you open up a cultural, the cultural elements that you represent as an embassy in the Netherlands, to a wider audience, these are things that if they can really even impact a couple of people, or the way how communication takes place, is a very, very large impact. I mean, not a lot of artists manage to have such a direct influence on the world around them in the same way. So in a way, I find it a very interesting position to find yourself as an artist, even if it is in very close proximity to very strong authority hierarchy. Whereas most people would think that this can only be achieved in a more like an autonomous artist practice, And so in a way, I find it very interesting how you develop into this kind of very practical, direct artistic application, which I don't think a lot of artists are working with the medium in that sense. I don't know if it's yeah. That's how I see it.
It's a very nice thought. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean that I say that you're now a diplomacy artist.
No,
but
far from that.
No, but it is, I think, an interesting step, especially in combination with this teaching element. When it comes down to, it's all about communication in the end. So now you find yourself in a place where your communications from within an organization, but maybe the next step, or wherever you end up at, your communication is more direct with the people one-on-one. Or so this is I think it's a very interesting development, what you in the light of everything that you've talked about up to now. because it really comes close to this this play of what is secure, what isn't, where do I want to go, and how can I implement my artistic research and search into those developments. So now you, because I often hear you say that I want to get back into art, but at the same time I feel that you're already very strongly working in it, but not in a traditional sense. Yeah. So what's next? How do you see the next step? Because the pendulum's now at the end.
Yes, at the very end.
How's
Yeah,
it gonna
because
go there?
unfortunately, even if you are able to provide those small changes and being in a position that can make some difference or make some input and to change a bit the environment, it is at the same time not the natural environment where you can do that forever, and there are structures that are not going to change. What you have been saying right now makes me, of course, think that at the end there is something in your head or something in your spirit or in your on what drives you alive that is always telling you the art, the creation, this thing, the creativity is there. You cannot omit it. It was makes you feel alive and move forward. So yeah, you cannot stop in a place that is not allowing you to do that. And even more, you have to evolve. You cannot stagnate in a comfort position. Even if you have your salary every month and you are paying your rent, I think that for some people, maybe I don't know if it's for me. It's not. It's just not okay. It's something hitting your in your mind that telling you find something else.
Even though you've got it very well, you got a good job. But now,
it's a structure that is somehow poisoning your soul. You are not developing new skills. It's, yes.
Yeah, like the painter who decides to give up painting and start doing sculpture.
What?
Like you find yourself falling into a certain structure or a certain rut.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're doing the same thing over and over.
Yes.
You've reached the cap of how much you can learn.
Yes, that's a good example. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you decide to change your discipline and go to something completely different.
You cannot be all the time repeating the same thing. Yes.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see what you're getting yourself into next, because it sounds like you're going like you're extremist in the sense that you go from one side to the other side. Yeah. Very curious. I'd really like to talk with you about, Verbeke more and about what it's like to work at an embassy and what an embassy, how it functions, all this stuff. But I think we've been talking for a very, very long time already. So maybe we need to wrap it up.
Yes.
Nacho, Villaplana, thank you very much for joining me and being so open to
It's been awesome.
to us. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to see where the adventure goes next.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Art Safari. Art Safari is made possible with the support of the Mondrian Fund, the municipality of Enschede, Verbeke Foundation and the Bauerhan Foundation. For more episodes you can find us on Spotify or visit www.artsafari.show, or check out our YouTube channel where all episodes of Art Safari are available to listen to and to watch. Until the next time.